It's 7 o'clock. Welcome everyone to this regularly scheduled meeting. The roll.
Mrs. Melius,
Here.
Mr. Ewing,
Here.
Mrs. Sealing,
Here.
Mr. Hoffman.
Here.
Mr. Updike has not joined by Zoom yet. Mrs. Mitchell
Here.
and Mr. Anderson.
Here.
Our second agenda item is approval of agenda.
Madam President, can I say that? Madam President? I would like to motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
We need a second. Second. Any discussion? Okay. Katie, could you collect the vote?
Mr. Ewing,
Yes.
Mrs. Sealing,
Yes.
Mr. Hoffman,
Yes.
Mrs. Mitchell,
Yes.
Mr. Anderson,
Yes.
and Mrs. Melius.
Yes.
Approved.
Please stand and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Hey, we're going to start with student and superintendent advisory presentation. Dr. Burke?
Yeah, we've got 4 students who came from the committee, and we had our last meeting on May 4th. And we talked about a bunch of different things, and they're going to talk to you about what they talked about. So you're making an 8th grader go first, or?
Oh, she's got it. Okay. Are we just introducing first? I'm Hadley Booz. I'm an 8th grader at Spring Hill Middle School.
I am Coral Callan. I'm a senior at Spring Hill High School.
I'm Corinne Harris and I'm an 8th grader at Spring Hill Middle School.
And I'm Marley Saxon and I'm a senior at Spring Hill High School.
Okay, so we are here to talk to you about everything that we've pretty much discussed at all of our meetings. So first, we met with the school nutritionist and they brought in 2 samples for us of chicken and dumplings, right? There was one with teriyaki on it and one plain. And it was really good. Like we all got to sample it and now they're going to look to add it onto our menu. So that was really cool. And we just got to like rate it 10 out of 10. It was kind of fun. So that was something new that we did. And now we're going to talk about what you guys have probably discussed quite a lot is the phone issue. So that was mentioned at one of our groups. And do you want to lead on to that?
Yeah, so we were just first kind of introduced it into the discussion, got everyone's opinions. And we all kind of had the same issues or struggles with it. A lot of it came from safety issues because kids need their phones for communication to parents. That was one big thing that we talked about, especially at the high school level. For safety reasons, there's health reasons. We've talked to some of our classmates and there's people who have diabetic issues and they use their phone to track that sort of thing. So just those type of things were some of the worries that we had with that. It also came a lot from like we see it every day. We know that it's a distraction in class and we understand the issues that people have with it, but we don't think that it's very realistic to ban phones altogether. And so we came up with some other solutions. In one of my classes freshman year, my teacher had like a plastic shoe holder that she hung on the door and everyone put their phones in the shoe holder. And that's how she took like attendance every day. If you could see your phone in there, then you were here for the day. And if it wasn't in there, then you have to put it in there. And that was a good way to where your phone is still near in case you need it, but it's not a distraction the whole class period because it's not near you. You can't use it during class. So that was a really good solution that I think could help because it is a distraction. We understand that, but kids still need them near. That's what we were thinking. Yes. Go ahead.
So we talked about the phones and everything. And after the meeting that we went to, I introduced it to some of my friends and different peers at the middle school level. And there was definitely varying opinions, I would say, of what people think and when phones should be used. So like they said, people want their phones because it has become a part of daily life. is basically attached to their side and they need it in order to survive. So people want their phones, and some were like, yeah, I wish I could just get rid of it, but I can't. So I don't really think that's realistic. And some people were like, well, I use it in class. So I think one of the main problems, and these girls and everybody in the superintendent's council thinks that one of the main problems is inconsistency with teachers. So when there is a rule implemented, it tends to be varied throughout the classrooms. So say I have this teacher that is very strict about phones, and then there's this new rule implemented with every single teacher that says students cannot have their phones out during class, which they shouldn't anyways, but this other teacher says you could just have it out during class. So it's not only taking away from class time and distracting people, but it's not following through. So kids will just be playing a game in one class and then go to another class and continue playing that game. They don't want to get off of it because they're like, if this teacher doesn't have this rule, then why does this teacher have it? It's not as important. So I think one of the main things that we could start to do to get the phone usage down is just have one main rule that every single teacher implements.
So I asked my peers about cell phone use, and a lot of them, I asked them, I'm like, do you think phones are used a lot in school? And 100%, they all said yes. So they are used quite a bit, but for educational purposes too. In our school, there's a rule. Our rule is that we have to keep our phone in our lockers all throughout the school day. But of course, students stress out when they don't have their phone on them because they use it 24/7. And that rule has faded since the beginning of the school year. They haven't really done much about it. So I'm pretty sure it's the rule of keeping your phone in your locker, but it hasn't really been implemented that much. Of course, when teachers see it, some teachers will be like, one more warning and I'll take it to the office, or they'll just take it away and set it on the desk and give it back to you at the end of the class period. But some teachers allow your phones for educational use. I know in math, we're allowed to use calculators on our phone, sometimes for an experiment. But otherwise, the students use their phones for playing games. Like, a lot of games are popular now, and a lot of people want to try to beat each other in all of those games. So it gets really competitive. But we were evaluating between the difference between middle schoolers and high schoolers with their phones, and they are nowhere near the same. Cell phones in high school, they have the storages, like the plastic storages on teacher stores in their rooms. And in the middle school, that's not a thing. Our teachers don't have what they call phone jails. So whenever students leave for going to the bathroom, they spend 15 to 20 minutes outside of their class on their phones, trying to communicate with others. And it's been a big problem, but we're trying to find some new ideas of hopefully having those shoe hangers in the classrooms so our students can put their phones away in class when they need.
I just have a quick question. At the middle school level, do you guys see a lot of kids that don't have phones? And then they may feel, or, not have as much as somebody that does have one, or kind of the varying degrees of how nice of a phone you have?
Well, some of the middle school students, they are not allowed to have phones because of maturity levels. Of course, middle schoolers' maturity levels vary between different spectrums, but some students can get around by communicating over email, like school email. They'll use their computer and email their friends and all their peers and what they need to do on like a normal phone basis. But the main problem, I feel like, when the students that don't have phones, when they're outside of school, they have no form of communication because nobody checks their email outside of school. And it's like, some students don't have that privilege of having phones, unlike others. So some students are luckier than others to have phones.
Do you feel like social media is prevalent on phones during the school day?
Yes, very, very, very much so. And like for high school, isn't there like different pages and stuff on Instagram where like people can post stuff during school?
Right, yes,
Yes.
and honestly, that's probably a big thing why they are, I know Marley and I, we have a remind for our class of 2022, and we send out emails on that like 24/7, just updates of activities, events.
Sure.
And that is something that makes phones almost important. I know it's hard because phones, it seems like it's just the easiest solution to just get rid of them, which honestly, I agree. I kind of wish we could just chuck them out the window. It'd be nice. But honestly, like it's become such a normal part of our lives that we can't just take it. It would be like an adaptive type thing. We'd have to go through years to get away with it, which is sad, but the truth. And like, if we just could figure out a way to keep a rule strict on it, I think it could end up easing into not using them at all in school. Cause I know I don't communicate well with my parents. And then in school, I'm like, wait, I have this, and this tonight, this, and this, and it, without me having that, they wouldn't know. And so.
So interesting that you said like remind or group me. I
Yeah.
was thinking more social media like Snapchat, Instagram. What I thought you were about to
Right.
say is that there's an Instagram page or whatever
Yeah, there is.
that's capturing pictures of people that don't even realize that they're on Instagram in the high school. Like
Yes,
that kind of thing is happening too, correct?
Right, yes.
Yeah. So, yeah, I understand what you mean about communication. I mean, I communicate with my kids quite a bit through email though. So I'm trying to rectify it in my head. What if there's anything on a computer that you can't really do on a phone that you can't do the other way around, on a computer that you
Right.
can't do on a phone.
Yes.
So I think there's a calculator on the computer. I think there's email capabilities. I email my kids.
Right.
So I'm just trying to think through that too. So
As a student who doesn't have a phone, I have to rely on verbal communication, which not many people use, and using my email to communicate with my parents. So I, like on a daily basis, when I get an email about like a school activity, my parents usually get it also. So lately, the school has been better at communicating since I'm fading into high school. So the high school has pretty good communication, and the middle school sometimes has pretty good communication. So I will forward that email to my parents and to whoever needs it. So I feel like for educational purposes, phones can be kind of used a little bit less because, like you were saying, phones and computers can be equals for the educational purposes. So there's calculators, there's emails, but also you can't really get like remind me apps on your phones and all those different group apps that we all need to communicate with our friends and family and even students for different activities and stuff. So yeah, so they could be turned into equivalents, but really that would take a while to get balanced out. So you can't really fade out either or turn them just into each other.
The point is definitely clear of why don't we, like everything's on the computer. It really is. But I really think that it has become such an everyday part of our lives that it isn't like some people, it is their security blanket. They need it with them to feel safe in today's world, sadly, and everything that goes on. So I feel like there are definitely things that can be put into stricter rules and we had a phone jail, I know in one of our classes, and we would go in and we'd put it in the phone jail and they would count attendance and then check our phone jail. And if it wasn't there, we had a reason for not having it or had a reason to have it. And I feel like those harsh rules will keep it off. But then I see your solution, like your point too, as how do you avoid the hallway pictures and things such as that. So that's definitely something that could be more discussed at the next meetings because you didn't really get there. That's definitely a good point.
I love your input on this. You're in the building and that I'm not, even if I have kids in multiple buildings, I'm not there too. So I think your input is super valuable. It always has been. And just want to recognize before you guys are done, the two seniors that have really piloted this. Thank you so much. You are so appreciated. And I love even seeing you out in the world and asking questions. So I appreciate you. I would love back to the phones though for a second, just kind of your student perspective on respect with the phones. Do you feel like it's a respect issue in classrooms? Like, are the teachers having a hard time asking for respect? Are people ignoring them? Are there AirPods in? Like, what's happening in the classroom?
So yeah, I feel like that's also a thing that varies. So phones are used every single day, as we've talked about, and teachers use them different ways. Like sometimes you can use them in class, which I feel like could be eliminated because you can just use your computer. But respect is also a big issue that varies with teachers. Because I know my art teacher has the 3 warning rule, but she rarely uses it. So I feel like kids still have their AirPods and stuff, so they're just swiping on their phone and change music. The teachers don't know that. So they'll just come over, take their phone, and then kids can't use their AirPods. I feel like that can be something that could be used also on your computer because you have Spotify, you have Pandora, you have whatever you need on your computer. So you can use your headphones on your computer, but I don't really use that often since I don't have a phone. Hadley, do you have anything to say about that?
I feel like in classes, the respect, a lot of teachers they try their hardest to get their students off their phones. But it's the matter of looking at your phone and saying, oh, I have Instagram notification. Oh, someone Snapchatted me, and they open it and they're stuck in their phone all of class and they don't know what to do. Like they have 5 missing assignments, they don't know how to do them. So I feel like the teachers have rules, they just don't apply them that much, and the students don't listen as much when they have their phones in their hand and they're staring at it. Like I get when you have to change a song, I do it on my Apple Watch. I don't have my phone on me normally when I do that. But I'll like change it and I'll put it down. I won't look at it again. I'll silence everything and I'll just pay attention in class. But there's some students that aren't like me. They're not as mature and they will have their phone sitting on their desk and they will stare at it and change their music. They'll change the genre. They'll switch it up, who knows what, but they won't pay attention in class at all. Like on computers, you have Spotify and you have Pandora and like you said, all of that. Sometimes students don't really get out of there. Like it's fine to log in on your phone, but it's harder getting it to your computer and logging in completely and then having everything set up. It just takes a longer process. So it's easier on phones and it's more accessible. So it's distracting students more.
It's hard to see those notifications and not want to look and see what they are.
So all in all, like it's definitely an issue. Hearing their input that needs to be addressed and is good that is being addressed, but they're communicating with other students. And I'm sure now that these guys have heard, there's definitely other ideas than completely getting rid of because it is just the way it is today. And knowing the middle school thought, they will maybe go crazy. And so it's just appreciate the recognition, but we did like to give you that nice little student input too, being in the building. So that was the whole point of our last discussion at our meeting. And yeah, it went really well. So yes.
Before you leave us, we did talk about 20 years in the future. Do you want to hit that real quick?
Yes, go ahead.
So, in 20 years from the future, this is kind of relating back to phones, but like not really. It's more or less our dependency on technology. So we feel like in 20 years, it's not going to be even like fathomable a question that phones will not be part of life because we'll be on our computers, we'll be on our phones. It'll be part of school. We'll think about like the type of scheduling that you guys had where it was like different class periods. You guys want to talk about that?
Yeah, we like even discussed like it's possible that we could see classes being more flexible and like teachers having office hours and then like lecture hours, like almost a college setting, just like thinking about it that way because kids learn at such different levels. And I think that will be used way more. And because of all the technology that we'll start using, we could see the flipped classroom idea being used to where teachers video themselves taking notes or over Zoom and you do that at home and then you come into school for those office hours and do all the actual work there with the teacher with you because doing homework at home with your parents gets hard, gets tricky. And so we just really thought that could be something. I know I've done that before in a middle school class. I had a flipped classroom and it worked really well and we could see it being used way more often in the future.
I remember talking about that at the beginning of superintendent's council where like because certain people need certain help in different classes. So like somebody could have 30 minutes in math class because they don't need that much help and they like watch the video the night before this so they could just come to school. And then they can have like 50 minutes in another class. So like teachers could have specific pockets of like 30-minute time. So if this student has like an A in algebra, they don't need as much help as a student that says has a F in pre-algebra. So like different teachers can have different like block schedules on those.
I had one question. Do you have some teachers that spend a lot of time being phone police?
Phone police?
Yes.
Yeah.
And that is clear in the middle school. We talked about how they're doing bathroom buddy systems now and taking their whole classroom to the bathroom when someone needs to go because they didn't trust individual students to go because they would take their phones. Like that's just why it needs to be recognized and it's going to waste times. And I know high school teachers will not appreciate that at all.
Yeah.
So the whole class goes to the bathroom?
Yeah,
in middle
so
school.
basically they started this after two kids or multiple kids text each other on their phones to go to the bathroom and fight. And then in the boys' bathroom, the mirror was shattered and all the lights were shattered. So basically what happened was if one or like three people need to go to the bathroom at once in a class, the entire class will go. It's wasting valuable class time that we don't have to waste. So really, as long as we're not using colored ropes to go to the bathroom, I think it'll be fine. But it's definitely not going to be able to be consistent and happen because even now some teachers are like, we're not doing that. I'll just let you go one at a time or just use different passes. It's still consistency is such a problem.
Well, it really is good for us to hear from you guys and hear your perspective of it, because it is hard, I think, for none of us are in that situation, but we see issues in our workplaces and stuff too. So, and from our kids or whatever. So I really appreciate your input. And was there anything else that you guys discussed
We discussed a lot of things.
that you want to share?
We didn't have as much time, but for the first year, this has been amazing. Right now you've got two eighth graders in front of the board speaking, and you got two seniors that did not try to dominate the conversation and allowed everybody to speak. And so for the first year to have something, I think we accomplished a lot. So very proud of it. Right now, there's just 4 ladies, but we had 10 students and very proud of all 10 of them.
Yeah. Thank you guys.
And the administrators that helped as well.
They are an extreme example of how amazing this, like, I mean, listen to how well they speak. I'm so impressed with you guys every time you talk.
Thank you guys so much for this opportunity.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think we should give them a round. Yeah, so good. Hey, our next item is students from the volunteer club. Dr. Burke?
Yeah, we'll turn it over to the volunteer club. This is annually they come and do a presentation. I see a couple of teachers back there, so I don't know if the teachers are speaking or if they have a spokesperson or people. So we'll turn it over to them.
You guys that are talking, you can use this microphone too and just pass it down so not everyone has to come up here. You just have to make sure that you turn it on.
Hey, Phil's waving over there.
Okay, so we're all just gonna introduce ourselves first. I'm Marley Saxon, I'm a senior. I'm Hannah McCormick, I'm a senior. I'm Emma Reinhardt, and I'm a senior. I'm Brooke Allen, and I'm a senior. I'm Kelly Castro, and I'm a senior. I'm Karen Clooney, I'm a senior. I'm Annabelle Davis, I'm a senior. I'm Delaney Hill, I'm a junior. I'm Haley Cleaver, I'm a junior. I'm Ava Markham, I'm a senior. I'm Aubrey Shetler, and I'm a senior. I'm Jaden Rainforth, and I'm a junior. I'm Mallory Folkers, and I'm a senior. I'm Taylor Elliott, and I'm a junior. I'm Kaylee Linus, and I'm a junior. I'm Alexis Beckman, and I'm a junior. I'm Julia Becker, and I'm a junior.
Welcome and thank you for letting us present today. My name is Garrett Bauer and I'm a senior in the volunteer class. Me and my classmates and I just wanted to take time to tell you about the volunteer class and what we've been doing this school year.
We have had a very busy year. Before we share with you about the semester projects, we would like to tell you briefly about the volunteer program and why it was initiated. This program was started back in 1997 with an aim to build a better community and increase the civic responsibility of its students. Since 1997, Spring Hill High School volunteer students have successfully completed over 250 service projects in the Spring Hill community. This breaks down to over 14,000 hours of service learning work done by Spring Hill students. This year alone, we had over 100 different students attend at least one service project and as a club volunteered at or with 13 different facilities in the Spring Hill community or the Kansas City metro.
The purpose of the program is to connect students with the community, give students a purpose, and practice empathy and compassion for others.
In addition to the service projects we organize every week, we make visits throughout the community to different places where we help out with what is needed. This includes several of our district's elementary schools, as well as visits to our adopted grandparents. We have put together a video to give you a glimpse of all of our projects and our daily activities in our volunteer club.
Hi, I'm Annabelle Davis. And I'm Kylie Castro. And we are both senior members of the Volunteer Club. We have been in this organization for 2 years. We can't wait for you to hear from the rest of the class about the awesome opportunities we were given this year. Thank you for having us. Healthcare Heroes is a project we did as an entire class, school, and community. We accepted donations like snacks, drinks, and lots of goodies to make gift baskets for nurses at Olathe Med. Volunteer class got up early in the morning to be at Olathe Medical Center for shift change at 6:30. There we held up posters we made and cheered for the nurses as they were coming into and out of work. We wanted to thank our local healthcare workers and show how much we appreciate them. This meant a lot to us because we all want to be future healthcare workers and just admire all of them for their hard work. And it meant a lot to them because they aren't making that. Hi, we're the project leaders for Literacy KC.
Literacy KC is a nonprofit organization that offers high school fluency preparation classes and individual tutoring for those who need it.
During our project, we created activity bags for an upcoming event the organization was hosting. Afterwards, we had extra time, so we sorted books into piles based on age group.
The help of our volunteers took stress off the shoulders of people who devote their lives to making education accessible to more of the community.
Sometimes things like education are taken for granted. Literacy KC provides education to those who need it most, while also teaching the rest of the community to appreciate learning.
Mission Southside is an organization that is on a mission to put God's love into action by extending help through hope. We divided up into 3 groups. We filled and counted Easter eggs for Easter and also packed to-go lunch bags. This project was very special to us because we care a lot about their mission. The Volunteer Club does a project at Mission Southside every year, and we were excited to get to be the leaders on this project.
My name's Kerrigan Clooney.
My name's Kate Milroy.
And I'm Coral Callan. We're the leaders of the Thelma's Kitchen Volunteer Project. Thelma's Kitchen is a service where volunteers go to help serve people who can't afford food. Due to COVID, they now pass out boxes of food to the homeless. We went and cleaned up the kitchen so they can prepare them, pack the food, and serve it.
We did this project to help others and to help prepare the workers for opening day. They're in a part-time facility right now while their other facility is being under construction.
As a community and personally, this organization gave us a chance to help prepare to serve to the community. And all in all, it gives volunteers a chance to meet people and serve to people who need it.
Leaders for Salvation Army, and we got the opportunity to have ice cream and hang out with kids that may be facing unfavorable circumstances. This is one of my favorite projects because of the impact that we have and get to make on these kids.
The best part about Salvation Army is being able to see how much the kids grow each time we come back. They get a night to just enjoy themselves and forget the troubles they are facing. We played with Play-Doh, ate ice cream, rode scooters, played dodgeball, and made crafts.
Going to Salvation Army impacts our community by putting a smile on kids and adults' faces. It's kind of a way just to pause your day and make people happy. We've been going to this volunteer trip for 10 plus years. My past 4 years here, I've been going to the Salvation Army. I see the same kiddos and I kind of get to watch them to grow up.
Our project this semester was Project Cure. This organization collects donated medical supplies from different suppliers throughout the Kansas City area and sends these supplies to different countries around the world that need it most.
During our time at Project Cure, we sorted through expired medical supply packs, prepared beds for Ukraine, and sorted drapes.
This was a super cool experience, and it was very inspiring to know that the impact we were making was not only in Kansas, but all over the world. Veterans Community Project is a village of 49 tiny houses in the Kansas City area that serves homeless veterans.
At the project, we toured the facility and created hygiene bags for local veterans in need.
BCP has worked very hard to be able to avoid red tape so they can support veterans in any possible way. BCP is a very unique program and volunteer class to support their system. Our local veterans are very important and need to be recognized for their service. The volunteer class wants to show gratitude to the veterans for serving our country.
with the Community Blood Center, we hosted a blood drive at the high school. We hung up flyers all around the school with a QR code for students to sign up to donate blood, sat during all of lunch promoting it to students, along with advertising it on social media.
We did this project because it was a huge success a few years ago when we did it, and now finally we were able to do it again after not being able to host because of the pandemic. There's a huge blood shortage in the community, and this was the perfect way for everyone to have the chance to help fix that. Doing this project was important to us because we know that there are so many people in the country that need blood every day, so being able to give back by donating blood could potentially save a patient's life. I visit Mrs. Manor's special education class at Wolf Creek Elementary School every Monday and Friday. Every day is different for me, but sometimes I help students with their assignments, read books with them, and we even get to play games together sometimes. I've created some really special relationships with these students, and I love getting to see them every week.
My name's Delaney Hill, and I get the opportunity to go to the elementary school and hang out with an amazing group of kindergartners. I get to start in the gym with them, and we normally play games. Then we go back to the classroom, and I normally take out 2 to 3 kids to the pod, and we play a variety of games like Jenga or Trouble, along with building blocks or straws. The kids are the best part, and they make me look forward to my Mondays and Fridays.
My name is Haley Kaler, and I go to Prairie Creek Elementary School. I always take a small group out and work on important skills that Mrs. Garcia wants me to practice with them. And through this, I've been able to build relationships with all of the kids, and a few more so than others. One girl in particular has me hold her hand and walk her to the bus every day, and we always play I Spy, so that's really fun. They make me always look forward to my Mondays and Fridays and endless their season in the classroom.
Our adopted grandparents are elders in the community. Every week we split into our groups and visit our adopted grandparents. My adopted grandparent is Don Green, and we usually play board games together. My favorite memory with him is having a pumpkin painting party during Halloween. My adopted grandparent is Sherry Brockman Mitchell. We do a lot of talking and have gotten to know each other really well. I love sharing stories while we eat our snacks. My favorite memory with Sherry are celebrating all our birthdays.
My adopted grandparent is Barbara Finley. We love to talk about our family and our childhoods. My favorite memory with Barbara is taking her on an outing during Christmas break. Overall, we managed to successfully plan and attend an abundance of projects this year.
Along with this, we were also able to bring back our elementary school and adopted grandparent visits, which made my peers and I very happy.
This class provides us with the opportunity to give back to the community that we live in, as well as the communities around us.
Having a volunteer class here at the high school makes volunteering easier to sign up for and a lot of fun to attend.
This class has had a huge impact not only on myself, but also on the people that I have helped along the way.
Thank you so much for allowing us to have and participate in this class. And thank you for taking time out of your day to watch this video and see just how impactful our volunteer class has been this year.
Thank you.
As you can see, the students of the volunteer class and members of the volunteer club are very busy working to do as much as we can to help fulfill the mission of the class. We like to encourage you to volunteer because the difference that even a single person can make is immeasurable. Thank you for taking time to hear about our organization and inviting us today.
Emily and I just wanted to take a minute to thank the board for all of their support, but we especially wanted to thank Dr. Burke. Dr. Burke has been an advocate, and I've actually had both of his kids in the class for over 20 years, and he has kept this program going. Even when we lost our grant, he fought to keep us going. So we really wanted to thank you, and we appreciate it. We will miss you next year, and good luck.
Really, I just want to, I think on behalf of the board, I can say this, thank you to all the time and effort, and especially the faculty people that kind of hold this thing together. knowing some of the people in the community that you guys visit on a weekly basis, they look so forward to that. And some of those people have been so isolated the last couple years. So you really do good work. And I would just encourage you that as you get settled after high school and college and in your careers, that you continue to give back to your community, because it is really important. So thank you so very much.
Just going to say, we hear if a high school student does something wrong, we hear about that right on the front page of the newspaper, or we get to watch it on TV over and over. This is so awesome what you do. I can be honest, when I was in high school, I did not do like what you guys do. And the fact that you give up your time and energy and the effort that you put into this is just so amazing. So thank you. Very heartfelt. Thank you. You make a difference in our community. And I know the vast majority of you, when you leave here, will continue doing the same thing. And so thank you to our sponsors as well.
Okay, moving on to recognitions, Dr. Burke.
Yeah, we'll start with Spring Hill Middle School, Trevor Gertson. You get up to speak and everybody
Yeah, don't
leaves.
take
So.
that
I know,
personally.
I know.
Don't take that personally.
Quite all right. All right. Well, thank you for the opportunity to have this recognition, and this may be my last recognition. And so I just want to formally thank Spring Hill Schools for the opportunity I've had being a part of this district for the last 6 years. It has truly been an honor and a blessing. My main recognition is actually going to go to my principal colleagues and the great relationships I've built. First and foremost with Rod Sprague. He mentored me in my early years, and I'm very, very grateful for him. We have almost like a brotherly relationship that I truly do cherish, and it will continue moving forward. Some that I've gone to for a lot of support and advice over the years, and I will continue to, as he is much older than me, and I can lean on him for a lot of parenting advice and marriage advice. Also to Mark Williams as a high school colleague, someone I've grown to really respect and love, and very much to all of the elementary principals, for Tammy Endicott, for Darcy Sly, for Mika Bauer, Stephanie Barnhill, and Jody Cole and Beth Cooper. And so every one of them have been friends and more than just a professional level. And I'm very, very grateful for the relationships and the connections and the growth that I've been able to have here in Spring Hill. And last, but definitely not least, for Dr. Burke and for Mr. Wilson. They have been those that have gave me my opportunity to be here, and grateful for each of them so much. So thank you.
We still get to come back in June. So I'm just
Yeah.
hate to break it to you, but it was a nice try. So, Woodland Spring Middle School, Rod Sprague.
So we're going to keep it classy. Just really a couple of things I'd like to recognize is our kids. Our kids always seem to do amazing things, and I see it every day. The couple just different groups that have been out lately, our choir kids for both Spring Hill Middle School and for Woodland Spring competed at a choir festival at Worlds of Fun this past week, and they came back with all 1 ratings. And so that's fantastic news. Really proud of those guys. They've worked really hard. And then the last but not least, our track kids. Our school, we have roughly around 380 kids, 6th through 8th grade. Out of our 7th grade, we had 7th and 8th grade, we had 120 kids out for track. So whenever we went anywhere, it took 3 buses, and they just keep coming off, and everybody's going, okay, how many more? How many more? We could almost have a track meet by ourselves. But they competed really well all year long. Never had any great weather. Matter of fact, had horrible weather until the league track meet. Finally, it's like, what's that big orange thing in the sky? It's the sun. And we had several personal records broken across the board on all age groups, all boys and girls did a tremendous job. I really want to thank our coaches, Alicia Von Stein, Tucker Wifter, Paul Carter, let me think, who else am I missing? Oh, Angie Tower and Ben Carpenter. They did a tremendous job with our kids. And I love the conversations I heard going on nonstop in practices and during the track meet, just encouraging kids, celebrating. I know kids would come off and they wouldn't be really satisfied with what they did. And they were like, but you beat your personal record by 3 feet. Isn't that awesome? And they just kept them thinking positively, moving forward. And I'm just really proud of the work that they do with our kids day in and day out.
Spring Hill High School, Mark Williams.
Good evening. First of all, I'd like to start out recognizing Katie George and Michelle Wells. They are our Stuco sponsors and our Stuco kids. Last week was Teacher Appreciation Week. And these guys had activities every day to recognize the teachers for their hard work and their dedication. They also had some very good snacks and they fed them well throughout the week. So I'd like to thank Katie and Michelle and the Stuco for doing that. And last but not least, the school year is winding down. I'd like to publicly recognize the staff I get the opportunity to work with on a daily basis. I tell people quite often, I'm very blessed with the people I work with. I appreciate their hard work, their dedication, and what they do for our students and to help make Spring Hill High School a good place. Thank you.
Spring Hill Elementary School, Tammy Endicott.
Good evening. I wanted to take some time to recognize our behavior team at Spring Hill Elementary School. Every day they work with behaviors all day long. Can you imagine leaving every day? And that's what you deal with. And you come back the next morning and you deal with it all over again. And yet they come in with smiles on their faces and positive attitudes and ready to support each and every kid. And that is Mary Chamberlain, Amanda Phelps, and I have two behavior paras, Robin Spencer and Nikki O'Leary. And they do a wonderful job. And there's some other people on the behavior team, but those are the four that really take the brunt of the behaviors, which helps me to be able to do other things. So I wanted to recognize them and appreciate them for their hard work.
Prairie Creek Elementary School, Jody Cole.
Good evening. I would like to recognize Trevor Gertson, Gary Howard, Zach Harwood, and Callie Weitzel. What an incredible asset they have been to our administrative team. They're hard workers, kind, compassionate, innovative, and problem solvers. They bring a high level of positive energy to our administrative team. I want to thank them for making a difference in the lives of our students, staff, and parents. They've been a true blessing to all of us, and I wish them good luck on their new adventures. Thanks.
Dayton Creek Elementary School, Darcy Sly.
Good evening. Starting out tonight, I just want to say thank you to my entire staff at Dayton Creek. As our opening year, they have made my job such an easy job because they're willing to jump in and do absolutely anything I ask of them. No matter who it is, they're ready to go. As soon as I say, we need some help, I have 3 or 4, or even 5 to 10 people that are jumping up saying, what can I do? How can I help? So I really appreciate everything that they do. More specifically, I'd like to thank our art teacher, Angie Snetchler, and our music teacher, Elise Luce. At the beginning of the year, we knew that we wanted to leave some kind of a commemorative item for our first year, something that all students would have a piece or take a part in, and the staff members as well. And Elise Luce is an amazing quilter. And so the two of them got together, our art teacher and the music teacher got together and decided that they would create a quilt. And so each grade level did something different in art and created a quilt square. And so that has come together, and each one of our staff members then as well did a quilt square. And so kindergarten did their quilt square. They used like permanent markers and then used rubbing alcohol that made it kind of spread. I'm not an art teacher, obviously. Second grade did felt pieces, and we're talking about symmetry. So every one of the classes had something special that they did with a different type of fabric. Third grade did a a stitching project. Fourth grade did weaving, and fifth grade did a paint resist where they did their design in glue and then painted it. And then, our art teacher took the fabrics home and washed out the glue. And then our art teachers, or not our art teachers, our regular staff, then had to design their own quilt. And I tell you what, that was the hardest darn thing. I thought and thought and thought forever, what am I going to do? How am I going to design this? And I thought, gosh, this is what it feels like to be a kid and have to figure out what they're going to design. So each one of our staff members did that. She put it together, and Elise will quilt it, and then it will hang above our doors as you leave the school so that the sun won't hit it. And it will be 4 foot by 10 foot. We have half of it done, and it was on display Thursday night as we had our art fair and STEM fair for parents to see. I will send you a screenshot of it that's hanging up at our school right now, but just half of it is hanging up. But it's really, really cool. So we're very excited, and I wanted to say thank you to them for yet work to do. So they still have to quilt that whole thing. Thank you.
Timber Sage Elementary School, Mika Bauer.
Good evening. Tonight, I would kind of like to stay with that theme of volunteerism and service opportunities. Tonight, I would like to recognize our PTO board at Timber Sage Elementary School. Only being open for a few years and having that COVID impact on our ability to get lots of activities going for our kiddos was kind of our reality for the last few years. And our PTO board this year has worked really hard to establish traditions, bring back some things that we hadn't done for a while, and just make sure that we had fun monthly opportunities for all of our kids. So I would like to recognize Brittany Stewart, Courtney Dennison, Keisha O'Neill, Kat Knable, and Ashley Anthus as that PTO board. They have put up tables and chairs over and over again all year long, brought in all sorts of treats, rounded up parent volunteers for various activities. And I think packed most recently thousands and thousands of bags of chalk for our color run. Their garages may never be the same again. So I want to say a special thank you to that group of ladies. I also want to give recognition to all of our Timber Sage kiddos as well as our student council. They recently held a cereal drive for Mission Southside. Our kiddos collected 339 boxes of cereal, and that donation was made just this last week. They also got a special treat because they got to line those cereal boxes up around the gym and create a domino chain and celebrate that amazing donation that they had. So I also want to recognize all of our students and families who made all of those donations. Thank you.
Wolf Creek Elementary School, Beth Cooper.
We have also enjoyed a lot of special activities these last few months at Wolf Creek. And so tonight I wanted to recognize those folks who made that happen because we've really missed those. I'm going to start with Kim Demings, our music teacher. We've been able to have 6 music programs this year. So every grade level was able to perform for their parents in the building. Our PE teacher, Kelly Whitman, is very busy right now getting ready for field day and getting the watchdog dads all signed up to help with our field day. We also have had great response from our PTO this year, and we've had 2 events in April that were really well attended and full of energy and spirit and excitement for the families in the evenings. So that was exciting. And I also want to recognize our teachers because they have worked on getting field trips organized and structured and then supervised, which can be a very tiring task, but it brings a lot of excitement to that grade level in that week that they're going on the field trip. So just wanted to recognize the folks who put all that extra energy in bringing that spirit back to our school this year.
Director of Special Services, Cindy Jaldas.
Good evening. I don't always do a recognition, so I want to keep this short, but I'm going to steal a little bit of time from those recognitions I haven't done all the time because I want to help kind of paint a picture here for you. When I was a child, I remember I would watch TV. It was some talk show. And, I Googled it because I thought, oh, I'll show the little video clip so you can get this picture, except for it showed up as the Ed Sullivan Show. And I'm pretty sure that was not the show I was watching. I'm old. I'm not that old. So anyway, the point is there was this guy and he would go and he would put these like dowel rods or sticks and he'd put plates on them and he'd spin them and he'd run around and he'd spin them. And it's a really cool trick. And it's this really neat thing that you can do, but it's one person. And it can only be done for a short time. It's not something that can be done continuously. And I know oftentimes as administrators, our principals, directors, sometimes I think we feel like we're that guy spinning those plates. We are running from plate to plate to plate, trying to keep it going. And we've got a lot of incredible people in our district who they're very capable and they work every day in helping to support our students and their needs, any support that they need. And they're often recognized. Our building level principals do a wonderful job of recognizing those people every day. I want to take a minute and recognize some people who work behind the scenes, and they help to ensure that those plates keep spinning. It keeps spinning in my world and they keep spinning in the special services world. Sometimes they're running behind me spinning a plate, or they're running over to a plate, or God forbid, a plate drop. And sometimes they do, because this is not a long-term trick. They're picking that plate right back up and they're getting it spinning again. They don't always get that recognition, but they are the people who are right there doing that for us. They go above and beyond. This year, they've often taken on extra duties way above and beyond their typical jobs. They've done that with grace. a positive attitude, and because they believe and they understand the bigger picture. So I wanted to take a moment to recognize Nicole McLaughlin, secretary in our department, Jenny Herndon, our IEP coach, and Bobby Darnaby, our SPED instructional coach. They keep the plate spinning.
The head of school at Inside in Kansas Virtual Academy, Cassie Barton.
Good evening. I just wanted to take a moment to recognize our career prep program staff that have worked so hard. We're in year 2, wrapping up year 2 of our career prep program. And we have had just another fantastic year. So I wanted to thank Ashley Anderson, our coordinator, Rachel Wertenberger, Stacey McKibben, Allison Walker, and Terry Fletcher, who all taught in the career prep courses this year, as well as sponsored different groups and clubs that the kids could join. We were excited. We had 2 students in our Skills USA chapter that wanted to attend the Kansas conference and compete in some tests, I guess, if you will. And we learned late last week that they actually won, each of them. And so they qualified for nationals. One of them is actually going to be able to make the trip with our sponsor, Terry Fletcher, to nationals in June and compete there. So we're very excited to see the program growing and flourishing. And we thank you for your support with that. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
I don't see anybody else lined up, so I think that's it.
Their next agenda item is business with individuals. No cards were received. Okay. Moving on to the consent agenda. This includes approval of the consent agenda items, approval of the minutes, personnel, natural gas bid, Skyward renewal, Microsoft renewal, Jamf renewal, and Jamf Protect, phone system, virtual server hosts, and Ingenuity renewal. Have anything to add, Dr. Burke? We do need a motion to approve this. No, you're right.
I move that we approve the agenda items. I don't know. Is that all I'm supposed to say?
Consent agenda. items.
Consent agenda.
Madam
items.
President.
Sorry.
Very good. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Okay, Katie, would you please collect the vote?
Mrs. Sealing? Yes. Mr. Hoffman?
Yes.
Mrs. Mitchell?
Yes.
Mr. Anderson?
Yes.
Mrs. Melius?
Yes.
And Mr. Ewing?
Yes.
Approved.
Very good. Okay, moving on to action items. First item is the National Forensics Trip. Dr. Burke?
Yeah, we have 2 students that have made it to nationals in Washington, DC, and we recommend that the board approve that trip. We'll also be sending 2 sponsors.
And could you remind us what our obligations are for this?
I think we're paying for the sponsors. They, instead of driving, they decided to fly. And so we are paying for the sponsors to fly there. I believe that we're paying for the sponsors' food. I'm sorry, I'm having trouble getting this to pop up. Normally we send whenever a trip goes on something like this, we send a van, and usually gas is what they ask for. And then we pay for the sponsors to travel. In this case, since they, instead of deciding to take a van, they decided to fly. So basically, all they're asking is permission to attend.
Well, when they presented last meeting, correct? So I watched the recording, but I wasn't at that meeting. So, so we just need a motion to approve that.
This trip's a whirlwind. If you look at the schedule, it's fast. I move we approve the National Forensics trips to Washington, DC, May 27th through 29th. Second.
Been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Okay, seeing none. Katie, could you please collect the vote?
Mr. Hoffman?
Yes.
Mrs. Mitchell?
Yes.
Mr. Anderson?
Yes.
Mrs. Melius?
Yes.
Mr. Ewing?
Yes.
And Mrs. Sealing?
Yes.
Approved.
Okay, the next item is the curricular adoption for middle school science. Dr. Burke?
Yeah, at the last meeting, we had our Director of Teaching and Learning, Dr. Smith, came in and did a presentation. I believe that she had some teachers that with her as well. They went through the process that they went to choose the curriculum that they were asking the board. So it is recommended the board adopts the STEM Scopes science curriculum. And this is for middle schools.
One thing I just say that I think it's been really great having Dr. Smith on board and kind of developing a process for all of this. I think wasn't quite as organized and systematic in the past. So I think the larger we get, the more we're going to have to really rely on those processes to do things the way we need to have them done. So I really appreciate your help on that and just entertain a motion for approval.
I was able to get on and look at that curriculum thanks to you getting us set up. It's very thorough. Oh my gosh. You could spend hours going through that. Anyway, it looked good.
Or a whole school year.
Or a whole school year, yeah.
Mr. President, I move we adopt the STEM Scope science curriculum.
Second the motion.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Okay, seeing none, Katie, could you collect the vote?
Mrs. Mitchell,
Yes.
Mr. Anderson,
Yes.
Mrs. Milius,
Yes.
Mr. Ewing,
Yes.
Mrs. Sealing,
Yes.
and Mr. Hoffman.
Yes.
Approved.
Very good. Moving on to the board meeting schedule for 2022, 2023.
Yeah, I believe Katie was the one that did the presentation on this last week. And the only adjustment from last week we made is the fifth Monday, I believe was on Memorial Day, and we decided, or I'm sorry, was on Halloween. And the board decided not to have a work session on Halloween. I believe everything else is reciprocal, and we still have the morning visits where we're able to go to the other schools and visit. And so, and we've also put in the work sessions on the fifth Monday of the months that has that. With that being said, we recommend the board adopts the board calendar for the 22-23 school year.
I will mention that the only other discussion was the March meeting. It was left up to the board if you guys wanted to do that on the first or the third Monday of the month because it conflicted with spring break. And it was the desire of majority of the board to do it March 6th. So that's what we put it on the calendar for.
Good catch.
Is there a motion to approve the calendar?
Madam President, I motion we approve the board meeting schedule for 22-23.
Okay. Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion? Okay, seeing none, could you please collect the vote? Katie?
And I'm sorry, just for clarification, Mrs. Sealing, were you the second on that?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. No, you're fine. I heard a woman's voice, but I wasn't quite sure. I just want to confirm. Mr. Anderson,
Yes.
Mrs. Milius,
Yes.
Mr. Ewing,
Yes.
Mrs. Sealing,
Yes.
Mr. Hoffman,
Yes.
and Mrs. Mitchell.
Yes.
Approved.
Okay, our final action item for right now is the Spring Hill Middle School track and field improvements. Dr. Burke?
Yeah. Yes, that's really not an improvement. This is basically we're redoing the whole track. And so that means from the base all the way up. I believe that this track was put in the mid 90s. And so we've got well over 20 years of usage out of that. Kylie and Tim Meek did a presentation at the last board meeting. Our recommendation is to approve the McConnell Associates a bid of a $907,307. And the alternate number one, which is $47,718, that would be the sidewalk surrounding the track. Total cost is $955,025. And this will come out of capital outlay.
That's exactly what I was gonna ask. So that's
Is
what I.
the stairs, is that, what stairs are those? Alternate 3? Was that included or not? No.
The stairs was not included.
Okay, it's in black, so I thought it was included. Oh, okay. I missed this. Was there mic?
Was there a budgeted amount prior to receiving the bids, or was it just a?
We were hoping to keep it under $1 million is kind of the plan. And with construction cost and it ended up it's still under $1 million, but a lot of times we'll put a number out there like that, but we really hope to come way under it.
Right.
But with construction costs this year, we were not able to hit.
I was just curious if there was a target before.
For the record, we're under $1 million, but it was not as low as what we were.
Mhm. Yeah, I think when they first brought it to us, you weren't even quite sure what all was
How
gonna
much
need to
was
be
gonna be
done.
done.
Yeah, so it's
was
pretty
trying to-
much a full.
Yeah, it says improvement, but we're basically redoing. They did
That
4
was-
samples. They went underneath. They're basically pulling the whole thing out and starting from scratch.
School opened in 95, 96, so that would have been.
Mhm.
That's correct. So 27 years.
So we just need a motion to approve that.
Madam Vice President, I move we approve the McConnell Associates bid for the main bid and alternate 1 for total cost of $955,025 for Spring Hill Middle School track and field.
Second the motion.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion or any questions? Okay, seeing none, Katie, would you please collect the vote?
Mrs. Milius,
Yes.
Mr. Ewing,
Yes.
Mrs. Sealing,
Yes.
Mr. Hoffman,
Yes.
Mrs. Mitchell,
Yes.
and Mr. Anderson.
Yes.
Approved.
That is our action items right now. Moving on to discussion items. Nutrition Service Survey, Dr. Burke.
Yeah, actually, this is one of the items that was on our list. And so JC Dalton is our Director of Nutrition Services. And so she has some survey information she's going to share with you.
Thank you all for letting me come speak tonight. If any of you looked over the survey, of all the comments and the pages, it was a lot to take in. I have read through them a couple times. We did this survey in February. We gave all 4th through 12th graders the opportunity to do it. And our administrators were really kind about letting them do that in class so they could just take the quick survey and be done. And then we sent it out to all parents or whomever wanted to take it. So we had over 1,900 responses. That's with parents and students. Christopher and I were very excited about all the responses we got. We didn't think we were hoping for at least 500 and we got almost 2,000. So it was a great response. A couple points of pride that we had that came out of the survey was how many kids are taking items off the garden bar. I always talk about our garden bar and our fresh produce. The majority of them, as you can see, are getting something off of there, whether it be one item or several items. I was covering at the high school about a week ago cashiering, and I was so impressed with how many vegetables our high school kiddos are taking. They're making these huge salads. Some of our boys, who I would think these football players would just want all meat and potatoes, and they have these huge salads on their plates. So it's really nice to see that. Another area, these are some questions that we put on the parent survey. And if you'll look in the darker green shaded areas where it was a higher percentage. And so I looked at from neutral up to strongly agree. I included neutral because sometimes when I'm doing a survey, if I'm kind of like, no, I'm good either way, I just will hit neutral unless I feel strongly about it one way or the other. So on that first question, my children like the food they're offered in the cafeteria. Our parents were at 83.2% from neutral up. And then our students were at 80%. And then the next one I wanted to talk about was, as a parent, I like the foods that are offered to my children. And from neutral to up, we were at 80.3%. The students, we did not ask that question. And the last one on there were school meals are nutritious and appealing.
This area was a little bit lower. From neutral to strongly agree with parents, we were almost to 78%, and with students, we were at 66%, which I found very interesting, that our 4th through 12th graders felt either the student meals weren't as nutritious and appealing as their parents. This was another area that we were excited about. The majority of our students that took, well, I would say their parents are answering for them, but that took the survey are eating 3 to 5 days a week. And that has gone up significantly with universal meals. That has helped a lot. So that's a school lunch. Breakfast has gone up significantly as well. We're feeding many more students at breakfast. And then a couple other areas, just some questions that we asked the parents. Do you know what items are offered for school lunch each day? And almost 68% said yes, which I thought was good. But the other thing was they weren't sure maybe where to look or to find the nutrition information, which our NutriSlice program is wonderful. It does take a lot of time to make sure all the nutrition labels are in there, all the ingredient lists are in there. And so that was only about 66%. So I think one thing that we will do is we'll communicate that more with our families. What school is going is, this is where you go, this is where you can find all the information. Several of our schools either print the menus off or they hang them up in their classrooms. The teachers will do that so the kids will know what's coming up on the menu. Some areas for improvement that we got from the survey. I would say these are the 3 biggest areas. Number 1, serving sizes are too small. And we were getting that answer from the elementary school for the 4th and 5th graders all the way through middle and high school. They do not like the appearance of the food. That's 45.1%, and then too few menu choices. So to increase portion sizes, this is something we can definitely look into. We have to make sure that we're meeting the federal regulations, which they're going to take away some of the waivers we've been able to use, and they're going to go back to more reduced sodium, 100% whole grain, and then the milk, which doesn't affect us. So if I can fit it in there, I will try to increase some of our serving sizes for our kiddos. I feel like they were talking about main entrees. I don't think they're talking about the garden bar because they can take as much as they want off of there. They may not know that. And so I think something else is we need to communicate more with our kids to say, you don't just have to take carrots. If you want carrots, broccoli, lettuce, spinach, cauliflower, if you want it all, I'm going to make a big salad on your plate and you'll eat it. Please take it. It's there for you guys to take. To make meals more appealing, we're going to cook to the line as much as possible. That's been hard at the high school because we serve the kids back to back. And so we might have to make 1,000 servings or 1,200 servings, depending on what it is, and have it ready to go in hot carts. Some food sits better in hot carts than others. Obviously, if it's cooked right out of the oven, even at home, it just tastes better than maybe when it sits for 30 minutes or an hour. So we'll do our best to cook as much as possible to the line. Prepare more on site at our satellite kitchens. That would be our K5s. And some of them have taken on some more cooking in their kitchens. We've got a couple that are even doing chili and cinnamon rolls, which really is nice because that aroma fills the school and it smells so good to have chili and cinnamon rolls. And that's just something where if we've got the staff to do it or the staff's comfortable, we're slowly getting them more engaged to make more items in their kitchens. Refilling between groups. Again, this was more so I noticed on the comments on the secondary survey, and it's maybe easier at the middle school because we have some time in between the groups. I think we'll have more time. Next year at high school, we'll be able to refill. If I go and I see a huge pan of whole apples ready to go versus a pan with 5 apples, the one that's filled with an abundance of apples looks much better and more appealing than these apples, even though they're the same apple. Wipe down the self-serve bars. As our kids self-serve, as you guys probably know, like at home, it gets pretty messy. I mean, they are going through like a whirlwind. Sometimes they're so quick. So I think we need to do a really good job of wiping it down and cleaning it off as much as possible. And when I was at Wolf Creek the other day, they were doing a really good job of cleaning up. The teacher that was in there, she was helping because kids are going to spill things, but it does look much more appetizing when it's clean and shiny. And then self-serve options as much as possible. So if it seems like if we put it on the tray versus they get to take it themselves, they're more apt to eat it if they've gotten to select it themselves. Even if it's something they like, we put it on the tray because they've gotten to make that decision. So we'll do as many self-serve options as possible. If it's safe to serve, if it's feasible to get the kids through in a good amount of time, we'll put it out there. Increasing menu variety. This came up in comments from the kids. Just they feel like they see the same things, and they do. The items that we have on there, it's a 4-week cycle. They're items that we've had on there. Some of them we've had on there for a very long time. I tried to keep stuff on there that's high participation days, but it sounds like some of the kids might be high participation, and we love Bosco sticks, but maybe we just leave it. I leave it off for one cycle or put another weekend to have a 5-week cycle, which I will work on this summer. We'll look at some new recipes and some new menu item possibilities. Chicken nachos is a real big thing right now, which we could definitely do. And My kids have it at their school and my two kids think it's just the greatest thing ever. And it's something we could definitely do instead of just always using beef for the nachos. Baked potatoes, we've done at secondary. We have not done it at K5. So I thought we might try a loaded baked potato at K5. We've got several of those kids that probably would like that, something different. Chicken dumplings, which our SAC students talked about. They're really good. They're whole grain and we make the sauce and we put it with vegetables, but it's just full of chicken breast. So that's something new. Pasta dishes, which I've talked to you about before. We've tried 3 different recipes for chicken Alfredo. One of them was okay. The other 2 were no. So we are still working on that chicken Alfredo recipe. It's kind of hard to get the sauce right. Black olives for secondary garden bars. We've already put out on some of them and the kids were so excited to see black olives again. It makes it hard to meet the sodium requirements. However, if we average it out on how many kids are taking it and how much we're actually using, we'll be okay. But it looks nice on the garden barn just to add a little bit. Those kids that were coming through with olives on their salad looked so good the other day. And then we have more vegetarians, I think, than I realized from the comments. It could have been the same group of kids, but they would like some more vegetarian items or items without meat. So we will come up with a garden salad that does not have the chicken on it. We can use beans as the meat alternate. We could put it with yogurt. I'll look at some other options for some different salads that are meat-free for our kids. I think that's about it now that I've rambled all this time. If anybody has any questions or discussion.
So it sounds like you need a math minor to do your job.
Yeah. Goodness.
Sounds to me like we need you
Algebra.
at the school. I need you to do my menu planning. And according to Dylan, you have the best mac and cheese and he won't eat ours at home. It's only the one at school. So thank you. Yes. Really though, you do such an amazing job with this and
thank you.
The passion that you put into this is inspiring. So thank you.
Thank you.
I asked you to pull this together and I really appreciate it. Looks like you got really great responses and the
Absolutely.
feedback was really good too.
And it'll be nice now we'll have a baseline. And Christopher was so helpful with this too. I kind of gave him some ideas and we put it together and he had it knocked out in no time. So, and again, I thank our administrators for letting the kids take the time to fill it out.
How's the food shortages? Is it getting better?
Yeah, we haven't struggled as much as I thought. The main thing is food costs. We're looking at 35% higher than we were. And now we were told by vendors that we could go to a meeting, it's going to be up to 40% just to get used to that.
Get higher. Even.
So it's just, it's a struggle. Yes. And I think they're doing the best they can. They'll send us letters from Cisco will send us letters from their vendors on saying we're not going to be making these products or we won't have these items because we don't have the staff or we've had to shut down this facility or we can't get what we need to make this product. Whole grain items have been an issue and that's going to be hard next year having to go back to 100% whole grain. So we're asking the USDA for some waivers, but right now they said it's all or nothing. So
what are your expectations next year with not having the universal free meals? Because how much more increase did you see with that? Because I know I saw it in my family.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you, I did write it down. So from August through April of last year, 2021, lunches, we did 274,000, over 274,000. At the same time this year, we're over 409,000.
Wow.
That's lunches. And then breakfast was 98,000 and now we're almost to 140,000. I think numbers will drop. I got that in the comments of the survey that how families were thankful. They were happy that we had that and they wished it would keep going. But right now it's all in Congress's hands. We can't do anything without a bill passed or a law. And I think participation will go down. However, with food costs being higher, I don't know how much more affordable it will be for families to send the peanut butter and jelly or the fruits and vegetables to get all the things they would get at school and the milk for the same price. And we'll be back to free and reduced applications. So hopefully our families that are in need will fill those out.
Definitely need to keep that in mind when we go for the budget next year because food is good. It's going to get worse this fall. It's not getting any better.
Yes. Yeah. And, and luckily with that, we've had really good reimbursement and because participation is up, our account looks really good. I think it'll give us some padding. Doug and I were talking about next year to handle some of those food costs. And then hopefully things will settle down a little bit. Oh, we are going to be working with a local farmer. I should have said Bolin Farms out of Olathe. We've already gotten a few deliveries from him to our middle school. And the first day he came, he brought lettuce and they called over and they said, this is the best lettuce we've ever had, because usually we get it from our vendor who's getting it from another vendor and it's traveling on a truck for a few days. So this was cut on a Wednesday and we had it on the line on Thursday. So we will be using that at all of our schools next year. He'll supply us with as much as he possibly can. So I'm excited about that.
Excellent.
I'll be interested to hear with the cost and everything, because I think sometimes even that local, with the eggs going up, some of the people
Absolutely.
doing, range-free chickens or whatever were their eggs were cheaper than what you could buy at the grocery store. So
Absolutely.
it'll be interesting to see what happens. So thank you so much. Does anybody else have any other
Yes.
questions?
Art, I ask you every year, how we doing on getting away from using the foam trays? We got enough staff now to be able to do that?
We do not.
We don't.
However, that is a goal of mine. If we get, especially the high school we had to use foam trays because of the way the schedule was set up, but hopefully if we can get the staff, we will go back to real trays. It's K5, really K8 is using the melamine trays unless they're just down, if they're down too many staff members, they don't. It's mainly high school where we've used the foam trays. So if and when we can get enough staff in there, we will go back to melamine trays. The kids like it. They're so much easier to hold. We had to use foam trays at a K5s the other day, and this little boy goes, well, I don't like this. He goes and he's stepping, he goes, it's just really wobbly because it's harder for him to hold. So it's definitely a hope that we can do.
The reason I ask you is that at NSBA, there was a vendor there selling machines that recycle those. It was neat. You could probably put about a 500 or 600 in there and they would melt into a tiny little brick. I grabbed a flyer anyway, I'll give it.
Yeah. Okay.
And they had a compost machine. They make compost for the gardens at the schools. They had both. It was neat.
Wow. Anybody else?
I just wanted to compliment JC. One thing she didn't tell you is she started coming to our meetings with the student superintendent advisory council. And you met these people, they don't hold back. And so they had lots of ideas. They were very respectful, but they were very direct. And the one thing I can say is some of the ideas JC immediately implemented and made changes. And it was so amazing for the kids to see. We were talking about something on this day and by Monday it was implemented doing. So thank you. And the kids really saw that and it was important for them to hear an adult hear and to act. There were times that we had to say no because of nutrition and the feds and some things like that. But anytime that she could say yes, she said yes and implemented immediately.
Oh, good. It's great.
Thank
Thank
you.
you so much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. You're welcome. Thank you.
Okay, moving on to cell phone use in schools, Dr. Burke.
Yeah, just real quick. I think Doug Updike is trying to get in. So I don't know if is he on? Okay, good. On cell phones, so I inherited this. Christopher unfortunately had to have surgery last week and was not able to be here. I think Christopher may be online, so if I say anything wrong, I may get my phone may blow up and I may have to clean some things up. But Christopher, two things I want to talk about the cell phone use in schools. First of all, really appreciated the students. I thought that they were incredibly honest. And when I say honest, they pointed out that it was a distraction and it was causing some problems and they felt like it needed to be fixed. But at the same time, they also talked about safety and some of the requirements of their parents to have the phones with them. They were worried about not just safety, like health issues, but very like emergencies as well. If there was an emergency, like a school shooter coming in and their parents saying that they wanted to be able to get hold of them. And so there were some things that went back and forth and they talked about have phone jail. And then they talked about if there was these things on the wall that the kids could grab in an emergency and still have their phones. And I just thought it was really good. The fact that not only did they have good ideas, but they were at least honest and said, yeah, there's distractions and there's kids that are playing games and they shouldn't. And there's kids that argue with teachers when teachers ask them to take them or to put them up. So I really appreciated that honesty. On the cell phone use in the school, first of all, thank you, Mr. Anderson. He sent us a lot of information and some of that was in alignment with some of the research that Christopher had done. And then there was some new information in there. I'm going to flip over to if we could go ahead and it's the survey on the very bottom, Phil, and I'm sorry, I'm going to make this hard on you. The very bottom not the ones for guardians, the student cell phones PDF 1189 KB, that one right there. And then let's go ahead and go down to the third one. So the research on cell phones, cell phone bans, verbiage is an interesting word because when I hear the word ban, I just assume that means you can't have the cell phone in the building at all. Well, we only found one school that says you absolutely cannot have cell phones at all. And that was a school district, Steelville, and we'll get to that in a minute. Most of the other ones would say you can't have it. We can't see it, but it needs to be put up and not on your person, or it can be on your person, but we don't want to see it. And that means you don't see it during passing period, you don't see it at lunch. Some other schools did say that they banned phones, but it was only during class period. So the verbiage was a little interesting that the word ban doesn't necessarily mean ban to me, or it doesn't mean to me what it means to some of these districts. Even Mr. Anderson sent some, a lot of them said ban, and then it would talk about, well, the first time you have it, you're supposed to put it up. The second time you have it, you basically give it to the teacher or take it to the office. And to me, that's not a ban because that means you just give it back. But I thought it was
range for sure.
Right. The next one, the Mountain Middle School, Durango, and the Forest Hills, those were two that were a little bit different than the other. I think the one from the Mountain Middle School was kind of the norm of what we see. It's basic that they're not supposed to have it, but then the first time, these are the consequences, second time, third time. We did see some schools that actually had a fine as well. So if you get to the third or the fourth time, it goes to the office and then you're fined a certain amount of money. So I thought that was interesting and well. The Forest Hill says they are not allowed to have them or carry them at all. They are available in the office, or there are phones in the office if they need to contact parents. If they believe that they need access, then it's to make sure that the phone stays stored in the classroom. So again, not really seeing anything that absolutely says you can't have them on campus whatsoever. Go down to the next one. This is Steelville. Steelville did say that you're not supposed to have schools at all or phones at all. This is a little small district. They just started on the 29th. And so Christopher called them and talked specifically with the principal and basically said that it was going pretty well. But I noticed that 90 students check their phones into the office each day. That's a lot of phones for someone to be responsible for every day. And they're not having them in the buildings. Things have gone well. Sounds like the community with support. So then we go to the parent survey results.
Just back up a minute. So they just started that in April?
April 20. Yeah, they just started in April. We talked to them on April 29th.
Okay.
So they don't have a lot of data yet. I think they'd only had it for about 3 weeks when Christopher called. Go down to the parent survey results. Thought we had a pretty good response, 890, and then it's broken down and it's only almost third by third by third. I mean, a little bit more high school than middle school and a little bit more than elementary. How do you see that as distracting or how do you view it, cell phone usage in the classrooms? So if you take distracting, the two of them together, elementaries, basically 87%, secondary looked at it right about 70%. So a little bit different viewage from parents. How do you go ahead and go to the next one? What rules should be in place? And these are the most favored responses. There were other rules, but these are the most favored. The highest one was that they're not to be used or visible during instructional times. So they should be put up. Cell phones are not to be used or visible in the restroom. 72%. To be honest, I don't think you should have them in the restrooms at all because it's too easy to pull out and take pictures. And unfortunately, we've had some students that have made bad choices this year and have been out of school suspended for that. So just for the record, when we know about that, they are out of school suspended that. The third one, cell phones should be kept in backpacks or locker during the school day, 56%. And then teachers may allow students to use their cell phones during class at their discretion was about 53%. So it's a little bit some are saying it's distracting, we shouldn't have it, and then some say that it should be allowed by parents. Go ahead, and the least favored, these are the ones that the parents did not like. So when it says cell phones should not be allowed on school property during school hours, only 4.3% people said that they agree with that, which on the other side, you've got a 95% that think that they should be. Cell phones should not be visible or used at all during school hours, only 22% supported that. Cell phones are not to be used or visible during passing period, 24%. That was the parent responses. Go ahead and go to the next one. So what consequences should be in place? This is one of the things that I talked about. Whatever policy that we have, it still comes down to two things. It comes down to policing and it comes down to consequences, because the teachers and the staff are still going to have to police it, and then it's going to be the consequences. When asked the parents what they felt like a first offense should be, basically 58% said it should be a warning. The second offense, about 40% said it should be confiscated and returned to the student at the end of the class period. And then the third was kind of split. One said that it should be confiscated and turned into the front office and only returned to the parent. That was 31%. The other part of that, cell phones confiscated and turned into the front office and returned to the student at the end of the day, was 30%.
I would think that these would vary a lot by the age of the student too.
Yeah.
I mean,
And I would say that probably was not as strongly felt by elementary parents as it was by secondary parents. So the last one, do we need to change the current practices? At the elementary, 51% said yes. Should it be more restricted? 51% of elementary said yes. 40% of secondary said yes. Should it be less restricted? Not very much support for that. No change. You had about 40% at the elementary and 43% at the secondary. The one thing that was probably the most telling is, would you support Spring Hill District Board of Education prohibiting, and remember, this is not the words banning, but prohibiting cell phones in school? 69% said no. So with that, and I do have one text from Christopher. He said, breakdown by level for consequences. It is available in the survey reports posted to board docs. Okay. So if you want breakdown by grade level, and I'm assuming when he means grade level, he means elementary or secondary, is available in there. And with that, we'll stand for any questions. It is still we still feel like we have a directive by the board that you want 3 options. And that we will hopefully, we have a month before we meet again, and our plan is to bring you those 3 options that you can look at that. But with that, we'll stand for any questions or discussion.
The survey data from staff is back in it wasn't imported into this one, was it?
No, it was not.
Okay.
So I
And we can make all of that. I think Christopher can probably put all that together and we'll put it on board docs. Not
put it in the library.
Yeah, we'll put it. I'd like to put it in a place that not only you can see it, but the public can see it as well.
mm-hmm. I mean, it's obvious that people feel like this is distracting and that it would be good if there was a good solution to handle it. Now, trying to come up with that and prevent the solution being more distracting than the problem to begin with, that's going to be the hard part, I think.
The distracting part is clear. I mean, even if the parents are saying 71% is distracting, the teachers were even more so saying it was distracting. Even the students were saying, I think everybody agrees.
I think everybody agrees that it's
that
distracting.
is very distracting. I also think that it's a balance between listening to the teachers who are in the classroom with them every day. And then I do understand the safety part. I mean, especially when we start using words like people are afraid of a shooter. I mean, that is a big statement. Thankfully, I think some of that might be just reminding, educating that they do have access to their students we give them, each one of them, a MacBook. So maybe people aren't thinking of that. I don't know. when we look at I want to look at the data again on what the teachers were recommending as far as offenses. Because again, they're the ones in the classroom. So I realized on the parent end, when it was 57.9% says just a warning from the teacher, what we heard from the students is that the teachers are warning, and they're trying to be the phone police. So I don't know that parents, I don't know that I would have understood that as much. So I don't know that that is effective right now to just have a warning. I feel like the teachers need our support and our backing and our policy making and enforcement in order to move forward with this.
I agree, and I heard from more than one student tonight that it's just so inconsistent, and that's partially because we don't have a set policy. We don't have one, so
Right.
we can come up with what it is and ensure all teachers are following the same thing. I think it'll be a lot more consistent for the students.
That's going to be hard to do. I mean, I
Yes.
look at this consequences list. There's going to be certain teachers that I am not wasting my time giving 3 warnings. It's gone on the first one. And then you got another teacher who says, I don't care if you play with it all day.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that portion of it's going to be difficult.
Well, and it's exhausting. I mean,
Yeah.
I only have 4 children, not 24 in a classroom or whatever, right? And just the constant, just feeling worn down all the time by this.
Well,
It's exhausting.
And I know one thing that the irony of this whole thing is when I was a principal, I was a jerk about phones. I didn't let them have a phone at all. And I had quite a few discussions with parents about that. We used to have a program called Sassy. So those of you who are really old know what I'm talking about, Sassy. But the teachers would have to put in input how many times they took the phone during the day from a certain student. So when a teacher was taking it from in the 3rd period, they would check on Sassy and find out that phone hadn't just been taken one time, but this was the 4th or 5th time. And so then the consequences had to become stricter. So I'm not sure how we'll come up with three options and then consequences. A perfect world was we would just tell people, or we would tell students, if you're going to have your phone, just don't bring them out during the school day and just leave it at that. But we know that that's not. Matter of fact, I had a principal talking to me today that a parent had to come pick up their phone, and the parent was saying how stupid it was that they had to come up to the school to pick up that phone. Well, that is our rules right now. And so it's not that we don't have rules, we have them. It's just some people choose to follow them and some people choose not to follow.
It's a discussion that parent needs to have with their child.
And honestly, I remember probably when maybe our youngest was in middle school, and maybe Mr. Sprague, you can remember this whole scenario where the kids, like they just gotten these MacBooks and they had these open Google Docs that they were sending to each other. So that was with the school technology they had. And so, they were all just contribute. So they're smart.
They're smart.
So whatever we do, it's not going to solve every problem. But if we could do something that would help, kind of put a fence around it, I think it would be helpful. So.
And I heard, it's interesting. Even the kids are saying we need consistency. Now, I also heard the kids say middle school kids and high school kids are different. So that is something that we may bring you 3 sets of options for high school and 3 set of options for middle school and elementary.
Well, it's different right now because the rules really are different between middle school and high school. I mean, they can't have their phones out in middle school, and it really is. But high school, I mean, it's got to be sheer volume of numbers too. Like, how on earth do you manage all of this? I think the other things that I have to point out, there's so much data on mental health and social media, and having access to social media all the time is just not healthy either. But then I hope that whatever language we bring or whatever policy, it is very clear on AirPods thing. I don't know how you could pay attention to anything with AirPods, and that doesn't make any sense to me at all. But then additionally, kind of some of the things the student said, I wrote down, she said they need it to survive. That's so alarming to me. Then I think they really feel that way. I mean, I think if you take their phones away, they get really, but if we're preparing them for the workforce later, you can't be on your phone. I'm not on my phone all day long.
But there's some people that work on projects
Yes.
and they listen to their music. If it's an art class, they might listen to music that's inspiring or writing or,
Sure.
versus having to listening to a lecture or a calculus lecture or something. So
I think it depends on the job because
Yeah, for sure.
yeah,
I've seen some places where people have the earbuds in at work.
yeah.
Surprises me, but Christopher said, we don't have information from the teachers about consequences. We didn't ask them that.
Okay.
So
I think there's so many, like you said, they can't function without it. You take it away for 20 minutes and they're a nervous wreck. Somewhere there's an education piece, and I wonder if there's some schools across the country that have, we have financial management courses. How far are we from having a class, not necessarily a full semester, something that says, hey, this is how easy it is to have an addiction, an electronic addiction. That's a topic for discussion. I don't know where that goes.
And I would be interested to look a little more at that Forest Hills School District in Grand Rapids because my stepmother-in-law was on the school board there for a while, and it's pretty affluent area. So they have the means. The kids have the means, and they probably have very expensive phones. And if they're working on it, might be a good model to look at. I don't know.
Our private schools in the area have the same sort of policies.
So as we approach this, one thing that I struggle with a little bit, I do think they're distracting, and my kids have to be in high school before they get phones. Like, we have rules in our house, but if we don't have the parent support and backing, I'm not sure we can approach this at all, because we're just going to open a different can of worms that's going to be harder to battle. Because we're going to have parents upset, coming to the school upset, coming here upset, and supporting their children. So they're going to empower them to maybe not do what we would ask them to do, making it then even harder for the teachers. So, which is the last thing I want. It's hard now, but if we do not have that parent support, we're just changing what the teachers are focusing on. Whether if it's not telling them put away, then it's policing this new rule. So whatever it is that you bring to us, I want to make sure that it's something that we've come to a really good middle ground between what the teachers want, but what parents want and what is actually realistic.
we'll bring it back as a discussion item because we still have a ways to go on this. This is not an easy fix by any means.
Oh, yeah.
Making a decision.
Right. Yep. I like this. It could be some of it, just education and reminding too. I completely agree with the safety. When a parent said that, I hear them on that. I want my kids to be able to get a hold of me during the day too.
Very good. Anybody else have anything they want to add to that?
No, just a lot of good
Okay.
work so far.
Yeah, thank you so much. I know that when you got to put the extra into finding it, but I think it's a worthwhile discussion to have for sure.
So Christopher, you can probably go back to bed now.
Thank you,
he cannot-
Christopher.
He cannot speak, and so I'm sure that his fingers are working very fast, but he has done an incredible amount of work on this. So I publicly want to thank Christopher and anybody else that was assisting him. Thank him as well. Thank them as well.
Thank you. Moving on to discussion item 10.03, graduation date, times, those in attendance. Dr. Burke.
Inside the School of Kansas, graduation is Saturday at 2:00. It's going to be at the high school. I believe it's going to be outside. Is that right? Oh, you're moving inside? I think everybody last year when the rains came and got everything delayed, everybody said if we can go inside, we can. So that'll be at 2:00. Please let Katie know if you're going to be there. We set up the stage accordingly. And even if you change your mind at the last minute, that is fine, but we would rather know if you're coming or not.
Is there anybody here that you need to hear from?
I will not be here.
So is this the auditorium or the gym?
It'll be the
Auditorium.
gym. Oh, are you
Gym.
doing the auditorium or the gym?
Jim.
I started to say, you're getting big enough now that you can't be there anymore.
I will be there.
You said yes.
And from what I understand, our State Board of Education member is a keynote speaker, Michelle Dombrowski.
Oh, is she? Very cool.
Yep.
And then the other one is Spring Hill High School is May 21st, 10 a.m. I know that one is inside the gym. So
I will be there.
after we heard about how many parties were canceled because we moved it from
Yes.
10 a.m. to 7 p.m. I think Mr. Williams decided never to have it outside again if he could help it. The one thing that's nice about having it in the gym is we don't have to worry about weather.
Yeah.
And I believe it's 11 tickets.
Inside.
That's a lot of tickets. So
Mhm. Do you need to hear from anybody on that one?
Ally, were you a yes?
I am maybe.
Tentative. Okay,
Yes.
thank you.
Okay. I lost my screen for a minute here. Oh, okay. So the next item, Tim, is there anybody else, any last thing on the graduation? You got everything you need, Katie? Okay. 10.04 change to the start time of the July 25th board meeting.
this one is not actually mine, but I believe that with Dr. Luttrell going to be coming on, Dr. Hart from KSB is going to do some short-term goal setting. And so I believe that Mr. Updike is asking that the board look at starting that meeting. It said 2 hours early, but
It'll be a 2-hour work session, but we'd like to start the meeting at 6 p.m. just so it doesn't eat up quite so much of the meeting.
and the fortunate thing is the second meeting in August usually is not very full.
In July.
Or I'm sorry, in July. Sorry, July.
Is this a work session or is it an action?
It is an actual meeting, but the first part of it is a work session where you're working on board goals.
Yeah, it was either we do it on this July 25th date, or you guys have to set up a separate special board meeting, which would be a work session. So Mr. Updike was in favor of starting the meeting an hour early to allot for some of that time.
6 o'clock.
Yes.
Sounds reasonable.
It's fine.
I think the intention is to have about a 2-hour session that's facilitated by Dr. Hart to work on superintendent goals.
Okay, sounds good. Anything else on that? Okay, items for board members for future meetings. We have our list there.
We've actually knocked a few things out of the list in the last couple months, but and there, anytime we know for sure there's something on there, we have put the date with it. So we've got quite a bit of your next meeting in the 1st of June will have a lot of stuff on it.
Anybody have anything they want to add to that list? Okay, moving on to the board work calendar, Dr. Burke.
I believe we're right sure where we should be on the work calendar for, I got to keep thinking, this is May. Anything that we could not get in May, we moved to June, and it'll be the first meeting in June. Some of this kind of runs together. We were hoping to have the KISA and the strategic plan kind of go together. So we decided to wait on that one. And the pathways is aligned with the strategic plan as well. So that's all put together. We were hoping to have the handbook changes finished and for this meeting, but we kind of got delayed on that. So we're going to move that. Buyback's already been taken care of. So anything that we could get done now, we've got done. Anything else will move to the first meeting in June. So we're right where we should be on the board calendar.
Okay, so moving on, reports from Board of Education on committees they have attended. I somehow missed the middle school site council meeting. I don't know how I did that for sure, so I apologize. But I do understand you did talk about cell phones a little bit and kind of had way differing views of what parents thought about that. So that's interesting. The only other thing that I would like to just mention is that I did attend my first CASHA meeting. And that was the meeting that we voted on the multiplier for private schools. So if you haven't read how that is working, I have the whole list, and it basically, the CASHA board approved it. Now it is out to the schools, and each member school has a vote, a yes or no vote. It has to pass a majority of all schools, and then has to pass a majority of schools in each classification. Then it will go to the State Board of Education, then it would go to the Kansas legislature. So it's got a few hurdles to pass, but.
What's the timeline then? Like how long ago that?
it sounded like it could all happen pretty quickly to me. When, I don't know for sure.
By the next school year, this school year.
Well, whenever it gets through the process, then the next school year is when it starts.
They will not have it ready for this fall.
Didn't it have to be unanimous vote? Is that right?
Not unanimous, but you have to
I
have,
read it wrong then.
you have to have a majority in each classification.
So majority of the 6A members have to vote for it, 5A members, 4A members. So, and actually, I mean, actually right now it would kind of hurt us because a lot of the private schools are 4A and they would probably move up to 5A. So it would maybe
Yeah.
hurt us a little bit more right now, but,
Everybody in the higher.
Yeah, you've had two.
If you guys are having discussion, please make sure you're using your microphones because online they can't hear the discussions if we're not using the microphones.
You've had
Thank you.
two very prominent 4As or 5A schools that have dropped to 4A. And so with the multiplier, they would probably move back to 5A.
And then we put.
And then Spring Hill would play them because
Right.
they're 5A. So
But
it would move
if,
them back to us.
if they continue to be successful, then they would eventually move to 6A. So we would have to take a hit for a couple of years and then.
I thought it was pretty complicated, but if anybody wants to read through it, I have the documentation.
So they
um,
would have to continue to be successful and their enrollment would have to grow also. So, right?
Not their enrollment. They
No,
would just have to continue.
success.
They would just have to be, continue to be successful.
It's a
Because
success
one of-
modifier.
One of the multipliers is if they're winning numerous state championships.
I read that
Um,
wrong then. Okay.
That puts them higher, but Jeff Hines from Paola did a lot of the research on this. They had a committee of people that were representing every class and private schools that kind of came up with these multiplier factors. And I think they really did work to try and come up with something that everybody could agree upon somewhat. So it passed by a pretty strong majority. I don't remember the exact vote, but
He's been a good leader on that. He has not let it die. I mean, he's been on that for 10 years now.
Yeah, this has been
Yeah.
an issue for 20 years.
Yeah, but he's stuck with it.
so does anybody else have any committees that they were?
Yes, I was able to go to Wolf Creek Elementary School Site Council with Elizabeth Cooper, and I got my notes this time. Lynette Pinkston, the counselor, and Allie Osher, team leader, and Susan Tees, the instructional coach. We talked about the leader in me, and they did a very good overview of what that is, how it works, and where they are in the process. It's not something you just start at the beginning of the year and at the end of the year you're pros at it. It takes a while. I think 2 years and then you guys are in 5. What year are you in? Yeah, that's it. I had that lighthouse team thing in my head and I couldn't remember how far that was. But anyway, it involves the whole community and it shows kids how to start new habits to become leaders. And they have something, it's based around a genius culture. It's kind of neat. It ties in with some other stuff we talked about. They have a culture team, a leadership team, and said this: if a student misses a day, they said the student really kind of feels bad because they feel like they need to be there for the rest of the kids, like they're letting them down as a leader. Like it's really neat, and they have a lot of shared responsibility because of it, and brings a lot of school pride and enthusiasm into the school. Kids are running eventually will run a lot of the programs and organize things on their own. This is really neat. They did a great job. So I think that was all of it.
Any other committees?
Yep, I attended the Dayton Creek Site Council meeting. You guys got to see I think Mrs. Sly sent us a picture of the completed quilt, but I had Katie I had taken a picture of just like the sample. It was a really cool, opening sort of memory wall, kind of like Prairie Creek had. But it is really, you'll see some of them, I think it was 5th grade did self-portraits on material. And so each one had a different it was very, very cool. So it was exciting to see a final picture of that. They also are doing something that I thought was really interesting called Move Up Night. where you can kind of preview your classes for next year. And parents can meet with those teachers and say, what can I do over the summer to maybe help close that gap a little bit. And then Spring Hill Police Department's partnering with them to learn more about their autism program and to learn how to communicate and assist when they come into contact with the autistic community. So I thought it was really, really kind of cool. They're doing some training and I mean, what a way to utilize that program there. So, and I also attended the Insight School Site Council, but I had technical difficulties and I couldn't hear and then my computer died. So I'm sorry.
There any other committees?
And I went to the early childhood site council and just learned a little bit more. They are starting to implement that curriculum that we approved recently. And just looking at ways, exploring, getting more parent involvement back into the school next year. That's something that they kind of missed the last couple of years. So, several ideas to do more with that. It's good. Good meeting.
Any other committees? Okay, superintendent reports.
Yeah, a couple of things. First of all, this is an incredible administrative staff, and I've had the pleasure of working with these people. They go above and beyond every day. They take everything that we do to heart, and these are incredible, hardworking people who truly care about the Spring Hill kids. So I'm not going to be at the next board meeting. It will be the first board meeting I missed something like 13 years. So I did give a heads up to the board president about 8 months ago. I'm going to a wedding. That's going to be a long way from here. So I won't get to hear those recognitions, but I did want a chance to make a recommendation. Phenomenal people we work with. Dr. Luttrell has done a great job of working to transition. He spent a lot of time here. He told me that he loves the road between here and St. Louis. There's a lot to see. The road is just a perfect driving surface. But he's been very dedicated in working to transition into the district, and I appreciate the efforts on his part as well. So with that, I'm good, but we do need an executive session.
Yep, we do need an executive session.
Going, Nels? Madam Vice President, I move we go into executive session for the purpose of discussing personnel matters of non-elected personnel to protect the privacy interests of an identifiable individual under coma. Those to be in session include Board of Education members, Superintendent of Schools, Assistant Superintendent of Schools, and administrators and guests as requested. The executive session to begin at 9 o'clock and 30
minutes, no longer.
And resume no later than 9:30.
Second. Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? Okay, Katie, please collect the vote.
Mr. Ewing,
Yes.
Mrs. Sealing,
Yes.
Mr. Hoffman,
Yes.
Mr. Updike,
Yes.
Mrs. Mitchell,
Yes.
Mr. Anderson,
Yes.
and Mrs. Melius.
Yes.
Approved.
Yeah, chance to go to the bathroom.
Second.
You need us to vote?
Yes.
Aye.
Everyone in favor? Aye.
All right.
Thank you.
Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
It's Doug with the shed.
There it is.
No, he's just kicking Doug out of there so he can come back.
Oh, I
here.
thought I needed to shut it off.
I never hear that. I hear every other word.
Pretty much.
Okay, we're back in open session. I would entertain a motion. Actually, one of two motion.
I move we fill the position of assistant superintendent as recommended by Dr. McGill.
A motion, do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Okay, Katie, please collect the vote.
Mr. Hoffman,
Yes.
Mr. Updike,
Yes.
Mrs. Mitchell,
Yes.
Mr. Anderson,
Yes.
Mrs. Milius,
Yes.
Mr. Ewing,
Yes.
and Mrs. Sealing.
Yes.
Approved.
Okay, and then we do have a request for a second action item.
All right. Madam Vice President, I move we pay 22,500 to buy out the contract for the speech and language pathologist with ProCare Contracting Agency.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Okay, Katie, please collect the vote.
Mr. Updike,
Yes.
Mrs. Mitchell,
Yes.
Mr. Anderson,
Yes.
Mrs. Milius,
Yes.
Mr. Ewing,
Yes.
Mrs. Sealing,
Yes.
and Mr. Hoffman.
Yes.
Approved.
Okay, and we are adjourned.